Hi, I'm Magda from Interiors Exteriors. In this episode, I'll show you a 37 square meter two-room apartment in a block that has been thoughtfully designed and is very cozy.
Hi, a warm welcome to you all. My name is Gabriela and welcome to my apartment. I bought the apartment in February 2021 and it looked completely different than it does now because it went through a major renovation. As you will see later in the video, it was really extensively rebuilt, and whenever I'm here in this apartment, I feel very calm and relaxed. In fact, the whole arrangement of this apartment was created to envelop a person from the outside, so you feel like you're in a pleasant little cloud. This is also a space that for me is a place to share joy, moments together, and stories with my friends. I often organize gatherings here with my loved ones to share time together, and everyone who is in this space always says that it's a place where they feel good, with positive energy. I hope that you too will feel the same way while watching this video.
We're starting as usual at the entrance. Before the renovation, there was a direct entrance to the kitchen right here in the hallway, and this was an open space. After the renovation, as you can see, the passage to the kitchen was walled up, a beautiful pink arch was painted here, and a closet was created inside. However, there was a certain challenge with it because here on the side, actually in the wall, there were utility meters. Access was through a little door like this. When the closet was built, access to the meters could have been difficult, but fortunately it was easy to solve. The meter doors were simply removed, and when we open the closet, there's an open space on the side going inward. Look, I can reach my hand really deep in there, and the meters are inside. Everything is clearly visible. And now we're entering the living room, which is a walk-through room. And here we have the bedroom and the bathroom. And now, after the renovation, the living room is also open to the kitchen. Before the renovation, there was a wall here, so the kitchen was long and quite narrow. When the entrance from the hallway was removed, it was possible to use this corner as a pantry. You can see that there are shelves not only in front, but also two deep drawers on the sides. We have a light, so it's easy to find everything. And what's more, here in the back between the shelves, the meters are also visible, so the entire built-in was made in such a way as not to lose any functionality. There's also an outlet, so in the future you can put some appliances here that can be used without taking them out onto the kitchen counter, like a coffee maker. And when we have such an easily accessible, spacious pantry, the kitchen cabinetry doesn't have to be so extensive anymore. You don't need a lot of kitchen drawers or cabinets. Here there are just the dishes and things you use most often, and everything else goes into the pantry. The kitchen cabinetry was organized in such a way that the tallest cabinet, the one with the refrigerator, is farthest from the window, so nothing blocks the light here. Next are the drawers, two shallow, one deeper, and the deepest at the bottom for the largest items. The oven also has a drawer. Here's the dishwasher, then a corner cabinet with a carousel, and here under the sink, a drawer with bins. And now look up, because as I mentioned earlier, there are no cabinets, but there are beautiful wooden shelves for small accessories and decorations, and initially LED lights were supposed to be installed under them to illuminate the countertop. But it turned out that there was actually no need for that, because it turned out that the hood lighting is enough. It's sufficient. As you can see, the countertop is well lit. And additionally, there's also a decorative lamp here that can change its position and either better illuminate the sink or this part of the countertop. And that's the only kitchen lighting. There's nothing else on the ceiling, but next to it there are two lamps above the table. This table is quite a popular model, which I think I've already shown you in 2 other episodes. It has drawers in the middle on both sides, on your side and on mine. There are 3 deep ones. You can store various small items, but it's convenient to have something at hand by the table. and on both sides it has foldable tabletops. Right now both are unfolded, but you can fold one and then the table will be smaller. You can fold both and then it will basically only take up as much space as these drawers in the middle. So it really has a lot of different options. It's very versatile, and I think I can honestly recommend it to you because it's really hard to find such a versatile table. Once I saw an episode of some makeover show with Dorota Szelangowska, where the residents wanted to keep the parquet floor they had in the living room because it was in very good condition and looked nice, but at the same time they wanted to open up the living room to the kitchen. And Dorota Szelangowska told them to choose, that either they keep the parquet floor or they open up the living room to the kitchen, that there was no option to have both. And unfortunately they decided to open up to the kitchen, so the entire parquet floor ended up in the trash. That really hurt me and discouraged me from watching the episode for a long time with interior makeovers. And this apartment is proof that you don't have to make such choices. Here, when the wall was removed, it turned out that there was a significant difference in height between the old parquet and the kitchen floor. Sometimes it's possible to chip away at the floor a bit, but not always. In the end, a different solution was used to avoid having a threshold. The tiles were slightly adjusted in height, and the parquet in this spot was raised a bit. Some kind of compound was injected under the board, which pushed the parquet up a bit. Thanks to that, we managed to achieve evenness in this spot. A level floor. Not perfectly leveled, but level in the sense that when you run your hand over it, you don't feel any threshold, just a slight bulge. This has a big impact on the furniture, because in this spot there's a table and the leg that's in the kitchen is higher than the leg that's in the living room. So to keep the table level, the leg in the living room got an extra extension. And a big change. As you can see, everything worked out. If you want to, you can make it happen. This is a very common rule. Of course, sometimes you can't do everything at once. You have to sacrifice something like the floor level in the passageway, for example. But still, the possibilities are really great, so it's worth looking for solutions. And talk about them with good professionals who will try to meet us halfway and find a solution. And they won't say it's impossible just because it's not easy to do. Against the wall in the living room, directly opposite the windows, there are Billy bookcases that don't have backs attached. Thanks to that, we can see the pink color that's on the wall. And look, it's a slightly different shade than the one in the kitchen. And yet they look really nice together. And in general, pink is a color that repeats throughout this apartment, as you'll see later. But now, take a look at how the individual modules of these shelves have been arranged. First, we have a low one. Here, the wall from the hallway is shallow, so if you put in a tall shelf, it would be much more noticeable visually that the cabinet sticks out. But when it's low and we're looking at this height, the difference in depth isn't as noticeable. And further on, it's far enough away that you don't really look at it either. We also have different fronts here, some fully enclosed, which hide things we don't want to have on display. A display cabinet with dishes that are pretty, but thanks to being behind glass, they get less dusty. And finally, open shelves for books and games, or baskets where you can also hide various things. And notice that these aren't 2 wide Billy bookcases, but 4 narrow ones. Why such a choice? Thanks to this arrangement, you can set the shelves in more different ways. You can have more influence on arranging the space. You can create square niches, which wouldn't be possible with wide shelves. What's more, you can change the arrangement in the future. Here are the holes. You just need to lift the shelf and simply move the pegs that go into the holes. Of course, remember not to do this too often because the peg can damage the hole a bit. And when we take it out, you can see that the hole is no longer perfectly round. But there's a solution for that too. There are special stickers, covers that hide the holes, So if you ever have that problem, you just need to put on a sticker and it will still look beautiful. By the balcony window, there's a desk, one of two in this apartment, since the other one is in the bedroom. Next, there's a sofa bed which unfolds like a futon, so you can have guests stay over. And now that you can see the whole room, notice that there's no ceiling lamp. Just like in the kitchen, here there are only lamps above the table on the ceiling. And in addition, there are a lot of small lamps from different sides of the room, which in the evening create a very pleasant atmosphere. And combined with these two lamps, they're completely sufficient.
The way I found this apartment was also quite unexpected, because I was looking for this apartment for 3 months. I was simply looking for an apartment suitable to buy. I have always lived in Praga-Południe, so I wanted it to be the place where I probably feel the best. And really, because it was hard to find an apartment that wasn't already reserved, even a day after the listing was posted, I needed some kind of sign, something that would help me make this decision, which is quite important for a young person, where to invest my money. So really, when I called the agent who posted the listing that same day, he said he would have a viewing in 2 days because it was November 10th. He wanted it to be on the 11th, so it wouldn't be a work day, and I managed to convince him to make it the 11th so I could be ahead of other people interested in buying the apartment. When he gave me the address, it turned out that I recognized the area and the building. Then it turned out later that the apartment was not only in the same building, but in the same stairwell, on the same floor as my best friend's apartment. The fact that I simply had a close, important person there made me decide to buy that apartment. And I think it was a very good idea because it's kind of like going back to the old days when people would just drop by for tea or coffee during the day and could spend time together. If you have a close person right next door, literally at your door, it's completely different, a whole different quality of living in that space. And because Warsaw is quite a big city, we are very interested. It's also an additional advantage that allows us to be together in different situations and support each other. After I bought the apartment, I had the chance to live in it for about 8 months. And at that time, it was really nice because it allowed me to get to know how to move around in that space better. I knew how I used each area in the apartment, and I highly recommend this solution to anyone buying an apartment if possible, because it helps you make better decisions that serve you later and make the apartment more enjoyable to live in.
Now we're leaving the living room, but before we move on to the bedroom and bathroom, I want to show you the laundry room, which is behind me, behind the mirrored doors. And a little trick so you don't leave fingerprints on the mirrors too often is to just click through your clothes. Click and it's open, no fingerprints left behind. Here I grab it from the inside, nice and easy. And look, there's a washing machine inside. And it's deep enough that it can be left ajar with the drawer open, even though the front was just closed a moment ago. As you can see, there's plenty of space, so everything fits well. There are drawers above the washing machine, which is unusual, because there are also drawers at a height. It would probably be more convenient to put shelves here, because it's obvious that drawers at this height are harder to access. But right now, it also has its advantages, because since more different people have been using the apartment since Gabriela moved abroad, you can hide things there that shouldn't be easily accessible. And here on the side, there's also a niche for the ironing board and iron, and even the vacuum cleaner fits in there. And I just love these kinds of utility storage spaces. They're super practical, and I highly recommend them to you. It's a great opportunity when you can create such a space in your apartment. The automatic lighting works really well too. The strips from bottom to top make sure that every part of the storage is well lit. And thanks to the fact that we don't have to look for a switch, access to things is definitely easier. In the bedroom, there's a double bed, a big wardrobe, and even a workspace. Fitting in all these functions is a real success. Because the bedroom isn't even 7 square meters, that's why the bed that was chosen here isn't an ordinary bed, but it's a futon mattress that can be folded into the shape of a sofa. And then you make more space here and it's easier to access the closet. But of course, you don't necessarily want to fold it up every day. Since there's little space here, access is harder. And that's why the wardrobe has sliding doors, so even with the bed unfolded, you can easily access its interior. The small desk has a perforated board beside it. A creative one, where you can organize all the shelves, compartments, and holders your own way. You'll make it as comfortable for us as possible, and so that what we'll use and what will be useful to us is right here. Hang the board above the chipboard to free up more countertop space. But for now it works well in this form, so if you also don't have much space for your home office and you use a lot of things, not just your computer, remember that it's worth using that wall space. And just hang as many things as possible so that they're above your desk, not on your desk. Because thanks to that, it will be much more convenient. The bathroom, just like the bedroom, is also small. It's not even 3 square meters. But fortunately, since there was no need to put a washing machine here, it was possible to make a very large, spacious shower. Look, there's actually a lot of space behind the sliding doors here. It was more difficult with the sink, or rather with the cabinet underneath it, because the distance from the glass to the wall was unusual, and it was really hard to find a suitable cabinet for underneath. In the end, the carpenter made it custom, and here we still have a deep wall. It might seem that such a deep built-in with a flush in the wall is rather an unusual solution, but that's not entirely true. Look inside the cabinet. There's a standard depth here, and then there's the wall. And there are just pipes there, and that's why we have an inspection opening in the cabinet. Little doors like these give us access to both the valves and the meters. There's also a pink color on the wall here, just like I showed you before, but this time it's painted in a completely different way. Not just smoothly with a roller, but applied unevenly with a sponge. The paint is sometimes mixed a little with white, and thanks to that we get an effect that looks a bit like micro cement or decorative plaster, but it's just paint. That's all for this video. Now I'm waiting for your comments, thumbs up, and I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel because a lot of people still watch regularly but don't subscribe. I also invite you to our store where you'll find inspiring interior design books. And if you're looking for ideas, be sure to check out our archived videos because we already have several hundred materials and they really don't get outdated. Rather than waiting for new home tours or episodes, check them out now. See if you haven't missed anything, because YouTube definitely doesn't show everything to everyone in real time, and it's very easy to miss cool content. So check out the archive. I highly recommend the old episodes, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!